My child, stop scrolling for a moment and listen carefully. Do not move past these words. Do not tell yourself you will come back later. Do not assume this is just another message among thousands you have seen before. What is happening right now is not random. It is not an accident. It is not a coincidence that your eyes have landed on these words at this exact moment. I know what has been weighing on your heart. I know the questions you have been carrying. I know the prayers you whispered when no one else was around. There were nights when you stared into the darkness, wondering if anyone was listening. There were mornings when you forced yourself to smile while carrying pain no one could see. There were moments when you asked, God, where are you? Do you still see me? Do you still have a plan for my life? And today, I want you to hear this clearly. Yes, I see you. I have always seen you. I never stopped watching over you. Not one tear escaped my notice. Not one prayer was ignored. Not one moment of your struggle was wasted. Even when you felt forgotten, you were never forgotten. Even when you felt abandoned, I was standing closer than you realized. My child, you asked me for a sign. You asked me to show you something clear. You asked me to confirm that you were not walking this road alone. This message is that confirmation. This message found you because I allowed it to find you. Before today, you may have felt stuck. You may have felt trapped between what used to be and what has not yet arrived. You may have wondered why the answers seemed delayed and why the breakthrough never came when you expected it. But what if I told you that everything is closer than you think? What if I told you that the season you believed would last forever is about to change? What if I told you that the very thing you have been praying for has been moving toward you while you thought nothing was happening? Do not let doubt talk you out of this moment. Do not let fear convince you to look away. Because before this message is over, you will understand something the enemy has tried to hide from you for a long time. You are not at the end of your story. You are standing at the edge of a new beginning, and what happens next may change everything. My beloved child, before you move forward into what I am preparing for you, I need you to understand something deeply. I saw every battle you fought in silence, not just the battles others could see, not the struggles you spoke about openly. I am talking about the hidden battles, the private battles, the ones you carried behind a smile while everyone around you assumed you were doing fine. I saw the nights when sleep refused to come because your mind was crowded with worries. I saw the moments when fear sat beside you and whispered that nothing would ever change. I saw the mornings when you felt exhausted before the day even began. And I saw the tears you quickly wiped away because you did not want anyone to know how much you were hurting. My child, nothing about your struggle has been invisible to me. When you sat alone wondering how you would pay the bills, I was there. When you worried about your family, I was there. When you felt trapped by circumstances you could not control, I was there. When your heart was broken by disappointment after disappointment, I was there. You may have felt alone, but you were never alone. You may have felt abandoned, but you were never abandoned. You may have felt forgotten, but you were never forgotten. I know there were moments when you questioned your own strength. You looked at the obstacles in front of you and wondered how much longer you could keep going. You felt tired of fighting, tired of waiting, tired of hoping, tired of believing that something good was still possible. Sometimes you smiled for others while secretly falling apart inside. Sometimes you encouraged everyone around you while desperately needing encouragement yourself. Sometimes you carried burdens that no one knew existed, and yet you kept moving, step by step, day by day. You did not realize it, but every time you chose to keep going, even when your heart was heavy, you demonstrated a strength that heaven itself witnessed. My child, there were prayers you prayed that never left your lips, prayers spoken only through tears, prayers spoken only through silence, prayers spoken through a weary heart that did not even know what words to use anymore. You thought those prayers were too small. You thought they were too broken. You thought they were too weak. But I heard every one of them. Not a single cry escaped my attention. Not a single plea was lost. Not a single moment of pain was ignored. I collected every tear. I heard every sigh. I understood every fear long before you found words to describe it. And while you were wondering whether I was listening, I was already working. While you were asking where I was walking beside you. While you were questioning whether I cared, I was protecting you from things you never even knew existed. There were dangers you never saw. There were battles you never knew were being fought on your behalf. There were doors I closed because they would have wounded you. There were paths I blocked because they would have led you away from your purpose. You called some of those moments disappointments, but many of them were actually protection. I know the loneliness was real. I know the heartbreak was real. I know the frustration was real. I know the waiting felt endless. But hear me carefully now. None of it was meaningless. Every difficult season was shaping something inside you. Every delay was teaching you something. Every challenge was strengthening a part of your faith that could not have grown any other way. You are stronger today than you were a year ago. You are wiser today than you were before the struggle began. You are closer to me than you were when this journey started. Even if you cannot see it yet, you have changed. The person listening to these words right now is not the same person who first entered this storm. You have survived things that once looked impossible. You have endured seasons that should have broken you. And the reason you are still standing is because my hand has been upon you every step of the way. So stop believing the lie that your pain was pointless. Stop believing the lie that your tears were wasted. Stop believing the lie that your struggle meant I had left you. I never left. I never stopped caring. I never stopped working. And what you are about to hear next will help you understand why the waiting season lasted longer than you expected. My child, one of the greatest burdens you have carried has not been the struggle itself. It has been the question that followed the struggle. Why is this taking so long? You have asked it many times. You asked it when the answer did not come. You asked it when the door remained closed. You asked it when others seemed to move ahead while you remained in the same place. And if you are honest, there were moments when you wondered if I was punishing you. You wondered if I was disappointed in you. You wondered if you had somehow missed your chance. You wondered if your mistakes had disqualified you from the future you were praying for. But hear me clearly today. The delay was never a punishment. The waiting was never proof that I had abandoned you. The closed door was never evidence that I had forgotten you. The truth is far different than what fear has been telling you. While you were waiting, I was working. While you were questioning, I was preparing. While you were growing impatient, I was building something that could not be rushed. My child, there are blessings that arrive quickly, but there are also blessings so significant that they require preparation. If I had given you everything you asked for the moment you asked for it, some of those blessings would have become burdens. Some opportunities would have crushed you instead of helping you. Some doors would have led you into situations you were not ready to handle. That is why my timing is different from yours. You see the moment. I see the entire journey. You see today's frustration. I see tomorrow's victory. You see the closed door. I see the danger behind it. You see the delay. I see the preparation. Think about Joseph. The dream came long before the palace. Before the promotion came the pit. Before the authority came the betrayal. Before the breakthrough came the prison. If Joseph had received the promise immediately, he would not have become the man capable of carrying it. The waiting shaped him. The struggle prepared him. The delay strengthened him. Think about David. He was anointed as king while still a shepherd. Yet years passed before he sat on the throne. There were battles. There was rejection. There were seasons of hiding. There were moments when nothing made sense. But every difficult season was preparing him for the responsibility ahead. The crown required preparation. The promise required growth. The delay had a purpose. Think about Moses. He spent decades in the wilderness before stepping into the calling I had prepared for him. From a human perspective, it looked like wasted time. But nothing was wasted. Every lesson, every challenge, every quiet year was shaping the leader he would become. And the same is true for you. The waiting has not been wasted. The delay has not been meaningless. Even now, there are things happening beneath the surface that you cannot yet see. Your character has been growing. Your faith has been deepening. Your strength has been increasing. Your dependence on me has become greater. You are not the same person who first entered this season. You have learned lessons that comfort could never teach. You have discovered strength that ease could never produce. You have developed faith that certainty could never create. And one day you will look back and realize that the delay was not standing in the way of your blessing. The delay was leading you toward it. My beloved child, some doors closed because they were not part of my plan. Some opportunities disappeared because they would have distracted you from your purpose. Some relationships ended because they could not go where I am taking you. At the time, you called those moments losses, but many of them were acts of protection. Many of them were expressions of my love. I was removing what could not remain. I was clearing what could not continue. I was making room for something better. That is why you must stop measuring my faithfulness by your timeline. I have never been late. I have never missed a detail. I have never forgotten a promise. The enemy wants you to believe that because it has taken longer than expected, it will never happen. But that is a lie. A promise delayed is not a promise canceled. A closed door is not the end of your story. A difficult season is not your final destination. What I have spoken over your life still stands. What I have prepared for you still exists. What I have promised will come to pass in its appointed time. So release your frustration. Release your disappointment. Release the belief that I was punishing you. Because I was never punishing you. I was preparing you. And what you are about to understand next will reveal that even during the moments when you thought I was silent, I was accomplishing more than you could possibly imagine. My beloved child, there is something I need you to understand before you can fully step into the future I have prepared for you. The silence was never my absence. The silence was never my rejection. The silence was never proof that I had stopped caring. What you called silence was my working. I know there were days when you looked around and saw no evidence that anything was changing. You prayed. You waited. You hoped. Yet nothing seemed different. The same problems remained. The same obstacles stood before you. The same questions lingered in your mind. And because you could not see movement, you assumed nothing was happening. But my child, some of my greatest works happen where human eyes cannot see. A seed buried beneath the soil looks inactive. From the surface, it appears as if nothing is happening. No growth, no movement, no evidence. Yet beneath the ground, roots are forming. Life is developing. Strength is growing. Preparation is taking place. And then, at the appointed time, what was hidden suddenly becomes visible. The same has been true in your life. While you were looking for visible signs, I was working beneath the surface. While you were focused on what had not happened yet, I was arranging what needed to happen first. While you were asking for immediate answers, I was building lasting solutions. You wanted the door to open. I was preparing what waited behind the door. You wanted the breakthrough. I was preparing you to sustain the breakthrough. You wanted immediate relief. I was creating permanent transformation. My child, there are things I protected you from that you may never fully understand on this side of eternity. There were conversations that happened without your knowledge. There were decisions made by others that I redirected. There were dangers I prevented. There were opportunities I removed because they would have led you away from your purpose. There were storms I quieted before they ever reached your life. You only saw what did not happen. I saw what could have happened. That is why you must stop judging my activity by what your eyes can see. Faith was never meant to depend on visible evidence. Faith trusts, even when understanding has not arrived yet. Remember how many times you believed everything was falling apart, yet somehow you made it through? Remember the situations that seemed impossible, yet somehow a way appeared? Remember the seasons when you thought you would never recover, yet here you are today. You called it luck. You called it coincidence. You called it survival. But I was there in every moment. I was opening doors you could not see. I was moving hearts you could not reach. I was creating opportunities you could not imagine. I was arranging details you did not even know existed. My beloved, I see the entire picture while you only see a single piece. You see today's struggle. I see tomorrow's testimony. You see the obstacle. I see the opportunity hidden behind it. You see the delay. I see the perfect timing. You see confusion. I see the path becoming clear. There have been moments when you begged me for immediate answers. And when those answers did not come, disappointment tried to convince you that I was silent. But silence does not mean inactivity. When a builder constructs the foundation of a house, much of the work happens before anyone sees the finished structure. The foundation is hidden. The preparation is hidden. The reinforcement is hidden. Yet those unseen stages determine whether the building will stand for years to come. The same is true with your life. Much of what I have been doing has been hidden, not because I wanted to frustrate you, not because I wanted to confuse you, but because preparation often happens before revelation. The blessing appears after the preparation. The breakthrough appears after the foundation is built. The harvest appears after the seed has spent time underground. My child, I know you became discouraged. I know there were moments when you wondered if your prayers were reaching heaven. I know there were nights when you asked, Lord, are you doing anything at all? And today I answer you, yes, I was working. I was working when you cried. I was working when you waited. I was working when you doubted. I was working when you felt weak. I was working when you thought nothing was changing. Even now, while you listen to these words, I am moving pieces into place. I am connecting people. I am arranging opportunities. I am opening doors. I am removing obstacles. I am preparing blessings that have your name on them. The enemy wanted you to believe the silence meant defeat, but the silence was preparation. The silence was positioning. The silence was purpose. And soon, very soon, what I have been doing behind the scenes will begin to appear before your eyes. You will realize that I was never absent. You will realize that I never stopped working. And you will understand that every moment of waiting was leading you towards something far greater than you imagined. My beloved child, there is something you must understand about the battles you have faced. The enemy does not waste his strongest attacks on what has no purpose. He does not fight what poses no threat to his plans. He does not invest effort into something that carries no future. The intensity of the battle was never proof that you were losing. It was evidence that something valuable existed within you. The enemy attacked what he feared most. He saw potential when you saw weakness. He saw purpose when you saw pain. He saw destiny when you saw disappointment. And because he could not stop the plan I created for your life, he tried to convince you to abandon it yourself. Think about it, my child. Why was your faith attacked so fiercely? Why did discouragement seem to appear whenever you got close to hope? Why did fear suddenly become louder every time you tried to move forward? Why did doubt show up whenever you started believing again? These were not random events. The enemy knew that if he could not destroy your future, he would try to destroy your confidence in the future. If he could not remove your calling, he would try to make you question it. If he could not stop my promises, he would try to make you stop believing them. That is why so many of his attacks happened in your mind. He whispered lies in moments of weakness. He told you that nothing would ever change. He told you that your prayers were pointless. He told you that you were too broken, too late, too damaged, too unworthy. But every one of those lies was designed for a single purpose: to separate you from hope. Because hope is dangerous to darkness. Faith is dangerous to darkness. Trust is dangerous to darkness. A person who still believes me after disappointment becomes a powerful force. A person who still trusts me after heartbreak becomes difficult to stop. A person who refuses to give up becomes a threat to every plan the enemy has prepared. And that is why the battle became so intense. The enemy saw things about your future that you could not yet see. He saw the healing that is coming. He saw the testimony that will encourage others. He saw the blessings that will flow through your life. He saw the people you will help. He saw the chains that will be broken because of your obedience. He saw the influence you will carry. He saw the victory that awaits you, and he feared it. My child, there were moments when you thought the attacks meant you were failing. But what if the attacks were actually evidence that you were getting closer? What if the resistance increased because you were approaching a breakthrough? What if the darkness fought harder because it sensed the dawn was near? The enemy often attacks hardest before a season changes. Not because he is winning, but because he knows he is losing. Remember how many times you almost gave up? Remember how many times you wanted to stop praying? Remember how many times you felt like walking away, yet somehow you remained. You are still here. You are still listening. You are still believing. And that alone is proof that my hand has been sustaining you. The enemy wanted your faith, but he could not take it. He wanted your hope, but he could not destroy it. He wanted your future, but he could not touch what I have already secured. There were battles you never understood, unexpected setbacks, unexplained delays, moments of confusion, seasons of exhaustion, and through all of it, the enemy hoped you would conclude that I had abandoned you. But I never left. I was strengthening you through every battle. I was teaching you how to stand. I was showing you that your strength does not come from circumstances. It comes from me. You have survived attacks that should have broken you. You have endured storms that should have destroyed your confidence. You have walked through valleys that should have stolen your joy. Yet here you stand. Not because you are strong by yourself, but because my strength carried you when your own strength failed. My beloved child, stop viewing yourself through the lens of defeat. Stop measuring your future by your present struggle. The enemy wants you to focus on the battle. I want you to focus on the victory that is coming. The enemy wants you to focus on the delay. I want you to focus on the promise. The enemy wants you to focus on what went wrong. I want you to focus on what I am about to make right. You were never being targeted because you were weak. You were being targeted because you were chosen. You were being opposed because you carry purpose. You were being resisted because something greater is ahead. And now the very attacks that once discouraged you will become evidence of my faithfulness. One day you will look back and realize that every battle was preparing a testimony. Every attack was strengthening your faith. Every setback was positioning you for a greater comeback. The enemy attacked what he feared most, and what he feared most was the person you are becoming through my power, my grace, and my purpose. So take courage, my child. The battle is not proof of defeat. The battle is proof that something significant is waiting on the other side. And what comes next will reveal the first signs that your season is finally beginning to change. My beloved friend, if this message is speaking directly to your heart right now, do not keep it to yourself. Take a moment and type, "I will not give up." Write those words as a declaration of faith. Not because everything is perfect, but because you trust that God is still working, even when you cannot see it. And if you believe that your season is changing, if you believe that God has not forgotten you, let that comment be your testimony before the breakthrough arrives. Also, take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Every message we share is created to bring hope, encouragement, and faith to those who need it most. Most importantly, share this message with someone who feels discouraged, exhausted, or ready to quit. You never know whose miracle may begin because you chose to send them a word of hope today. Now listen carefully, because what God wants to reveal next may be exactly what you need to hear. My beloved child, after a long season of waiting, one question often rises in your heart. How will I know when things are finally beginning to change? The answer is simpler than you think. Before a season changes in the natural world, signs begin to appear. The same is true in the spiritual realm. Long before the breakthrough becomes visible, there are indications that something new is approaching, and many of those signs are already appearing in your life. The first sign is that you no longer feel comfortable where you are. The things that once satisfied you no longer do. The routines that once felt normal now feel restrictive. The old version of your life feels too small for what is growing inside you. You may not fully understand why, but you feel a holy dissatisfaction. This is not frustration. This is preparation. I am stirring your spirit because you were not created to remain where you have been. The second sign is that old doors are beginning to close. At first, this can feel painful. Relationships change. Opportunities disappear. Certain paths suddenly come to an end. And your first reaction may be disappointment. But remember this, my child. When I am preparing to open a greater door, I often close the ones that no longer belong in your future. Do not mourn every closed door. Some doors close because your next chapter has already begun. The third sign is that your hunger for me is growing. You find yourself wanting more peace, more truth, more prayer, more time in my presence. Even when you feel weak, there is something inside you that keeps reaching toward me. That desire is not accidental. It is evidence that my spirit is drawing you closer because I am preparing you for what comes next. The fourth sign is that you are beginning to see things differently. Situations that once controlled your emotions no longer have the same power. People who once discouraged you no longer determine your worth. Fear that once paralyzed you is slowly losing its grip. You are not reacting the way you used to react. You are not thinking the way you used to think. You are changing, and that change is proof that growth is already happening. The fifth sign is that unexpected opportunities begin appearing. Sometimes they seem small: a conversation, a new connection, an idea, an invitation, a chance encounter. Many people overlook these moments because they expect dramatic signs, but often I begin with small openings that eventually lead to significant breakthroughs. Pay attention to what I place before you. Not every opportunity is random. Some are answers to prayers you have already forgotten you prayed. The sixth sign is that the battles begin to shift. This does not mean every problem immediately disappears, but you start noticing something different. The things that once overwhelmed you no longer carry the same weight. The fear is still there, but it no longer controls you. The obstacle is still present, but it no longer seems impossible. The storm still exists, but your confidence is increasing. Why? Because your strength is growing, your faith is maturing, your perspective is changing. And finally, the greatest sign of all is peace. Not because everything is perfect, not because every question has been answered, but because deep within your spirit, you begin to sense that something is moving. You cannot fully explain it. You cannot fully see it. Yet you know that the waiting season is not going to last forever. There is a quiet confidence growing inside you, a confidence that says, God is working. God has not forgotten me. My breakthrough is coming. My beloved child, if you recognize these signs, do not ignore them. The season is shifting. The ground beneath your feet is changing. The chapter that held your pain is beginning to close. The chapter that carries your promise is beginning to open. What you have prayed for is closer than you think. And now there is something very important I need to warn you about, because the closer you get to your miracle, the louder fear often becomes. My beloved child, as you move closer to the breakthrough you have been praying for, there is something you must understand. The closer you get to your miracle, the louder fear often becomes. Many people think fear appears because they are moving in the wrong direction. But often the opposite is true. Fear becomes louder because you are finally approaching the very thing you prayed for. The enemy knows he cannot stop what I have planned for your life, but he will try to convince you to stop yourself. He will whisper questions designed to make you hesitate. What if nothing changes? What if you fail? What if you are not ready? What if you take a step forward and everything falls apart? My child, those questions do not come from me. Fear speaks the language of doubt. Faith speaks the language of trust. Fear focuses on obstacles. Faith focuses on promises. Fear looks at what might go wrong. Faith looks at who is walking beside you. The enemy wants you to believe that you need every answer before you move forward. But if you wait until every question is answered, you may never take the step I am calling you to take. Faith has never required complete understanding. Faith requires trust. Think about Peter stepping out of the boat. The storm did not disappear before he stepped. The wind did not stop before he moved. The waves did not suddenly become calm. The miracle happened when he trusted me enough to take the first step. The same principle applies to your life. You are waiting for certainty. I am asking for trust. You are waiting for perfect conditions. I am asking for obedience. You are waiting until you feel strong. I am reminding you that my strength is made perfect in weakness. My child, fear has stolen enough time from you already. It has convinced you to delay decisions. It has convinced you to question opportunities. It has convinced you to doubt yourself. It has convinced you to remain in places that no longer serve your purpose. How many blessings have people missed because fear convinced them to stay where it felt safe? How many opportunities have been ignored because uncertainty felt uncomfortable? How many dreams have remained unfinished because someone listened to fear instead of faith? Do not allow that to become your story. You were not created to live imprisoned by fear. You were created to walk in freedom. You were created to trust me. You were created to move forward even when the entire path is not visible. Remember this, my beloved. The Israelites stood at the edge of the promised land and saw giants. Fear told them they could not win. Fear told them they were too small. Fear told them the future was impossible. But the giants were not proof that the promise was false. The giants were standing in the very land I had promised them. And sometimes the biggest fears appear right before the biggest blessings. The enemy wants you to focus on the giants. I want you to focus on my promise. The enemy wants you to focus on your weakness. I want you to focus on my strength. The enemy wants you to focus on what could go wrong. I want you to remember everything that can go right when my hand is upon your life. My child, stop allowing yesterday's disappointments to define tomorrow's possibilities. Not every closed door means the next one will close. Not every failure means another failure is coming. Not every heartbreak means another heartbreak is waiting. The past does not have permission to dictate your future. I am writing a new chapter, and you cannot enter that chapter while constantly expecting the worst. Fear wants you to stay where you are. Faith invites you to move forward. Fear wants you to keep looking behind you. Faith invites you to look ahead. Fear wants you to remember every reason something might fail. Faith reminds you of every reason. My promises will succeed. The miracle you have been praying for may not arrive the way you expected. It may not happen according to your timeline. It may not look exactly like the picture you created in your mind. But do not let fear convince you that because you cannot see everything, nothing is happening. I am still working. I am still leading. I am still opening doors. I am still preparing blessings. I am still making a way where there seems to be no way. So today I ask you to release your fear into my hands. Give me your worries. Give me your doubts. Give me your uncertainty. Stop carrying burdens that were never meant for your shoulders. Trust me with the future. Trust me with the timing. Trust me with the outcome. Because the miracle you have been waiting for is not found by looking backward. It is found by walking forward in faith. And what I am about to reveal next will help you see that some doors are already beginning to open before you. My beloved child, after all the waiting, all the questions, all the battles you have endured, I want you to hear these words clearly. I am opening a door no one can shut. Not your past, not your failures, not the people who misunderstood you, not the voices that doubted you, not even the enemy himself. When I decide that it is time for a new chapter to begin, no power on earth can stop what I have ordained. For too long, you have been staring at closed doors. You looked at opportunities that disappeared. You looked at relationships that ended. You looked at dreams that seemed to fall apart. And somewhere along the way, you began to believe that every closed door was proof that your future was shrinking. But my child, a closed door is not always a rejection. Sometimes it is a redirection. Sometimes it is protection. Sometimes it is my way of keeping you from settling for less than what I have prepared. There are doors you cried over that would have led you away from your purpose. There are opportunities you begged for that would have become burdens. There are situations you wanted to enter that would have wounded your spirit. You could not see the full picture then, but I could. And because I love you, I closed what needed to be closed so that the right door could eventually open. Now the season is changing. The waiting has not been meaningless. The preparation has not been wasted. Everything you have experienced has been leading to this moment. The door I am opening is not built on luck. It is not built on human effort alone. It is built on my purpose. That is why no one can shut it. People may try to discourage you. Circumstances may try to intimidate you. The enemy may try to convince you that nothing is changing. But what I have decided to release into your life cannot be permanently blocked. My child, some of you listening right now are praying for restoration. Others are praying for healing. Others are praying for financial provision. Others are praying for direction. Others are praying for peace. And I want you to understand something. The door I open may not always look exactly the way you expected. Sometimes I answer a prayer by changing a situation. Sometimes I answer a prayer by changing you. Sometimes I remove an obstacle. Sometimes I give you strength to overcome it. But every answer carries my wisdom and my love. Do not become so focused on one specific outcome that you miss the greater blessing I am placing before you. The door I open often leads to more than you imagined. You asked for relief. I am preparing transformation. You asked for provision. I am preparing abundance. You asked for survival. I am preparing growth. You asked me to solve a problem. I am preparing a future. That is why you must keep your eyes open. The opportunity may arrive in a form you did not expect. The blessing may appear through a path you never considered. The answer may come through a conversation, a relationship, a new idea, or an unexpected invitation. Stay sensitive to my leading. Stay willing to move when I say move. Stay ready to walk through the door when it appears. because hesitation has caused many people to miss opportunities that were sent from heaven. Do not let fear keep you standing outside a door I have opened. Do not let doubt convince you that you are unqualified. Do not let your past tell you that you are not worthy. If I am opening the door, then I have already prepared you to walk through it. You do not need to know every detail. You do not need to see the entire journey. You only need to trust the one who is leading you. My beloved child, there is a reason you have survived every battle up to this point. There is a reason you are still standing. There is a reason this message found you today. The chapter of waiting is coming to an end. The chapter of movement is beginning. I am opening doors of healing where there was pain. I am opening doors of peace where there was anxiety. I am opening doors of opportunity where there was limitation. I am opening doors of restoration where there was loss. And when those doors begin to open, you will finally understand why I asked you to keep believing when everything around you suggested giving up. So lift your head, strengthen your heart, renew your faith, because the door before you is not locked. It is already beginning to open. And the person who walks through that door will not be the same person who entered the season of waiting. You have changed. You have grown. You have been prepared. And that brings me to something important you need to recognize about yourself. You are no longer the person you used to be. My beloved child, before you step into this next season, I want you to pause for a moment and look back not at your failures, but at your journey. Look at where you started. Look at the person you were when this season first began. Look at the fears you carried. Look at the wounds you hid. Look at the doubts that followed you everywhere. Now look at yourself today. You may not be where you want to be yet. You may still have questions. You may still be waiting for certain prayers to be answered. But one thing is undeniable. You are not the same person you used to be. The trials changed you. The waiting changed you. The battles changed you. Not because the pain was greater than you, but because I was using every challenge to shape you into someone stronger. There was a time when disappointment would have completely broken your spirit. Now you recover faster. There was a time when criticism controlled your emotions. Now you understand your worth comes from me. There was a time when fear made every decision for you. Now faith is beginning to speak louder. You do not always notice your growth because you live with yourself every day. But I see it clearly. I see the wisdom that has been developed through hardship. I see the patience that was built through waiting. I see the compassion that was born from your own pain. I see the strength that emerged from your struggles. And I am proud of the work I have been doing inside you. My child, the person who entered this season, was asking me to remove every storm. The person listening now has learned how to trust me in the middle of the storm. That is growth. The person who entered this season wanted immediate answers. The person listening now has learned that my timing can be trusted. That is growth. The person who entered this season depended on circumstances for peace. The person listening now is beginning to discover peace that comes from my presence. That is growth. Do not underestimate what has happened inside you. The enemy wants you to focus on what has not happened yet. I want you to recognize what already has. You have survived battles you once thought would destroy you. You have overcome obstacles that once looked impossible. You have walked through valleys that seemed endless. And through it all, you kept moving forward, sometimes slowly, sometimes with tears in your eyes, sometimes with trembling faith, but you kept moving. And because you kept moving, you became stronger than you realize. My beloved, there are blessings ahead that require the version of you that exists today. The old version of you could not carry them. The old version of you would not have been ready. The old version of you would have doubted, feared, or mishandled what I am preparing. That is why the process mattered. That is why the waiting mattered. That is why the growth mattered. You were not simply waiting for a blessing. The blessing was waiting for the right version of you. And now, after everything you have endured, you are far closer to that person than you think. So stop speaking about yourself as if you are still trapped in yesterday. Stop defining yourself by old failures. Stop measuring your future by past mistakes. You are not who you were. You have been refined. You have been strengthened. You have been prepared. And now the question is no longer whether you have changed. The question is whether you are willing to believe that you have. Because the next step requires a decision to trust, a decision to move forward, a decision to embrace the future I have prepared instead of clinging to the past I already redeemed. And that decision begins right now. My beloved child, every season of preparation eventually leads to a moment of decision. This is that moment. For a long time, you have been waiting, you have been praying, you have been hoping, you have been asking me to show you the way. And now that the door is beginning to open, you stand at a crossroads. Not a crossroads of circumstances, a crossroads of faith. Because before your situation changes completely, your decision must come first. Will you trust me, or will you trust your fears? Will you move forward, or will you remain where you are? Will you believe my promises, or will you continue listening to the voice of doubt? My child, every great miracle in Scripture began with a decision. Noah had to decide whether he would build the ark before the rain appeared. Abraham had to decide whether he would leave the familiar and follow my voice into the unknown. Peter had to decide whether he would step out of the boat. The miracle came after the decision. The breakthrough came after the step of faith. The same is true for you. I am not asking you to understand everything. I am asking you to trust me. You may still have unanswered questions. You may still have concerns about the future. You may still feel uncertain about how everything will unfold. But faith was never about having all the answers. Faith is choosing to trust my character when you cannot yet see the outcome. My beloved, some of you have been standing at this place for longer than you realize. You have been waiting for one more sign, one more confirmation, one more guarantee. But how many confirmations have I already given you? How many times have I sustained you when you thought you would fall? How many times have I provided when there seemed to be no way? How many times have I carried you through situations that should have defeated you? Have I not been faithful? Have I not protected you? Have I not guided you? Have I not remained beside you through every season? Then why should tomorrow be different? The same God who carried you yesterday will carry you tomorrow. The same God who protected you in the valley will protect you on the mountain. The same God who sustained you during the waiting season will sustain you in the season of blessing. My child, the future I have prepared cannot be reached while constantly looking backward. You cannot embrace tomorrow while holding tightly to yesterday. You cannot walk into freedom while carrying chains I already broke. You cannot receive what is new while refusing to release what is old. Today, I am asking you to make a decision. Choose faith over fear. Choose hope over discouragement. Choose trust over doubt. Choose movement over hesitation. Do not allow the enemy to convince you that you are not ready. You are ready because I have prepared you. You are stronger than you think. You are closer than you realize. You are more capable than fear wants you to believe. This is not the moment to shrink back. This is not the moment to surrender to doubt. This is not the moment to return to old thinking. This is your moment to say, Lord, I trust you, even when I do not see everything, even when I do not understand everything, even when the future feels uncertain. I trust you. And when you make that decision, something powerful begins to happen. The fear loses its grip. The doubt loses its voice. The hesitation loses its power. And faith begins to lead the way. My beloved child, heaven is waiting for your response. The door is open. The path is prepared. The season is changing. Now the choice is yours. Will you stay where you are? Or will you trust me enough to step into the future I have been preparing for you all along? My beloved child, there will come a day when you look back on this season and see it differently than you do now. Today, you see the waiting. Today, you remember the tears. Today, you remember the questions that seem to have no answers. But one day, you will see what I was doing all along. You will understand why certain doors had to close. You will understand why certain people had to leave. You will understand why some prayers were not answered immediately. You will understand why the journey took longer than you expected. And when that day comes, you will realize that I was never delaying your blessing. I was preparing it. You will see how every disappointment redirected you toward something better. You will see how every setback protected you from something that was not meant for you. You will see how every difficult season developed the strength, wisdom, and faith you needed for the future I had prepared. What feels confusing now will become clear. What feels painful now will reveal its purpose. What feels unfinished now will eventually make sense. My child, trust me when I tell you this. Nothing you have endured has been wasted. Not one prayer, not one tear, not one sleepless night, not one act of faith. I have used it all. Even the moments you thought were meaningless have become part of the story I am writing. The waiting season was not empty. It was full of preparation. It was full of growth. It was full of unseen miracles happening behind the scenes. And soon you will begin to see the evidence. Soon you will see doors opening. Soon you will see prayers answered. Soon you will see why I asked you to keep trusting when the road ahead looked uncertain. So do not lose heart now. Do not give up at the edge of your breakthrough. Do not stop believing just because you cannot yet see the whole picture. I am still the author of your story. I am still directing your steps. I am still working all things together for your good. One day you will look back and say, now I understand. Now I understand why I had to wait. Now I understand why God said no to certain things. Now I understand why He asked me to trust Him. And when that day arrives, your gratitude will be greater than your confusion ever was. Until then, keep walking, keep trusting, keep believing. Because the God who carried you through the waiting season is the same God who is leading you into the season you have been praying for. Heavenly Father, today we come before you with grateful hearts. Thank you for speaking to us, guiding us, and reminding us that we are never alone. Thank you for every moment you carried us through when we were too weak to carry ourselves. Lord, for every person listening to this prayer, I ask that you fill their heart with peace, replace fear with faith, replace doubt with confidence in your promises. Remind them that their waiting season has not been wasted and that you are working even when they cannot see it. Father, heal every wounded heart. Restore every area that has been damaged by disappointment, loss, or discouragement. Give strength to those who feel tired. Give hope to those who feel forgotten. Give courage to those who are afraid to take the next step. Help us trust your timing, even when we do not understand it. Help us release the burdens we were never meant to carry. Teach us to walk forward with confidence, knowing that you go before us, beside us, and behind us. Lord, open the doors that are part of your perfect plan, and close every door that would lead us away from your purpose. Let your favor, protection, wisdom, and peace surround us each day. We place our future in your hands, trusting that you are faithful and that your plans for us are good. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen. Before you leave this message, I want you to make a declaration of faith. Not because God needs to hear it, but because your heart needs to believe it. If this message spoke to you today, type these words in the comments. I trust God's timing. Write it boldly. Write it with faith. Write it as a reminder that even when you cannot see the full picture, God is still working behind the scenes. Remember, your waiting season is not your final season. Your story is not over. The delay was not a denial. The silence was not God's absence. And the battles you faced were not proof of defeat. God has seen every tear, heard every prayer, and carried you through every difficult moment. Now He is calling you to move forward in faith. If this message encouraged you, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who may be struggling right now. Your simple act of sharing could be the answer to someone else's prayer. And never forget this: God is making a way. The door is opening. The season is changing. The breakthrough is closer than you think. Keep believing. Keep trusting. Keep walking forward, because the best part of your story may be about to begin. God bless you abundantly, and may His peace, favor, and presence go with you wherever you are. Amen.